Hello. I am back. Welcome in, guys. If this is the first time you've ever seen me, hello. My name is Victoria Walker. I am a certified life coach. I'm also a content creation person. I'm also a content creator, and I am your soulful teacher. I teach all things about personal mastery, personal development, probably talk about psychology, philosophy, anything anything that intrigues me, which are usually those topics. So I also talk about viral content as well, which is today we are speaking about should women be healing the little boy within the man? So I'm just going to check I'm live and you all can hear me. Do a sound check because it's important that we do. Yes, we're live. And welcome in. Welcome in for those of you who are joining. I am using an app, so I can't see everybody or anybody that's in. So I'm just going to just talk on the topic. Okay. So if you are commenting, I will check at some point. But my Facebook is relatively new, so my YouTube is relatively new, so I don't have a big audience there. And Facebook is really sometime-ish. So if you do have a comment, I will check in. But yeah, let's just get into this topic because this has been like a very polarizing conversation. And I'll give you context. So there's a life coach or relationship coach called April Mason. And I'm going to get the post up in a minute. And she put a post out which said, heal the little boy in him and the man you want will show up. And in fact, let me just get the post up so y'all can see what I am seeing. So I'm going to share my screen so you can actually see what I'm talking about. And we're going to just talk on it. We're going to discuss this because the question is, and the conversation I want to have is, do women have a role in a man's life to heal him? And if so, what does that look like? Or if not, why? And I think this is where the conversation became really polarized between camp A that was like, no, never, being pick-me-sha, and it's not good, and a man should heal himself, and which I totally agree with. And then the other end of the spectrum, which is, yes, a woman does play a role in a man's life, and she is there to inspire and create, is a catalyst for change. And I agree with that too. And I think in these sorts of topics, when it's very polarized between camp A and camp B, I always find that both parts are correct in some aspect, but I think we need to dissect this a little bit because it's not so much black and white. What does healing mean? It's too blankety. And when it's too blankety, people can take it in different ways. Now, she did leave a very interesting comment to it, which was, let me get that 1 second. So let me just read the caption. So it says, wise divine feminine women who are healers, and she put in caps healers. And this is a very interesting point because she's not speaking to everybody, right? She's speaking to the healers, the empaths, the compassionate women, the people who I speak to. What I would say is like the women with spiritual gifts, and the women who feel things deeply and are quite empathic. So she says, wise divine feminine women who are healers understand their assignment. What's understood doesn't have to be explained. Okay, so she's making a point. She doesn't have to explain herself. Those who know, right? That's what she's saying. Her assignment is not a burden to her because it's her presence that does the healing, not what she can do. And that's a very good point. The last sentence says she is a gift, because the way I see it, with this sort of philosophy or mindset, like you do have to be a certain type of woman to even entertain this idea, point blank. And I think this is why it's triggering for some women who are just not there. So I always teach this model which I was taught about the psychological development of a woman and of a man. And I'm going to talk about women in this one because women, our psychological development or our psyche goes through 4 distinct stages. So the first stage is the girl. Now, it's okay for a woman's psychology, or girl, a female, for a psychologist to be a girl when she's a girl. And the girl psychology is, look, help me, help me, help me, save me, save me, save me. I'm a princess. I demand, I get. That's kind of like the mindset of a girl. And that's okay when she's, a child, but it gets problematic when that mindset falls into her womanhood days. So that's the first stage. So women, females who have this girl psychology beyond past 18 are the ones that you find are very demanding. They'll throw a tantrum if they don't get what they want. They act kind of immature. They're all about sort of materialistic things, very young, they haven't matured yet. And you can find women in their 30s and 40s that still think like this because they haven't developed past that mindset of being a girl. So then when a woman does develop into when a girl moves up into her womanhood, the womanhood stage is really about independence. It's about autonomy and independence. So she's moved from being kind of like, help me, help me, help me. Let me actually just come off this a second. So she's moved from this help me, help me, help me stage, and she's now going into this like autonomous, independent woman. And she is, look, I can do on my own. I can stand on my own. And these are the women that tend to not necessarily want, I'm not saying not want, but they're independent, so they don't necessarily need a man per se. And that's kind of some of the philosophy that they have. A woman does everything on her own. She gets her money on her own. She's so highly independent. But then there's a next stage, and that stage is where she becomes a queen. And a queen is like, okay, she knows she can be independent, but she's also willing to receive. She's able to receive. Now, a lot of women in their independent stages struggle to receive because they're so used to doing things on their own, not entrusting the support of other people. They most likely don't trust other people because they've been let down, and they've learned to be able to sustain themselves by themselves. So being a woman, kind of like that stage, to go to a queen, you are now saying, look, I actually run this domain. Like, people are serving me. People are here to, like a queen. Like the queen, I would say, do you see the queen cleaning her castle? No. She's got butlers. She's got drivers. She's got, and so the queen is actually able to receive, and she's actually able to sit in her sense of pleasure, which allows her to radiate more. She can give more of herself, or more of her feminine energy, because she's in that feminine stage, which is pure pleasure. Her life is easy, it's simple. There are people that, and even in business, women who get to that point where they've got teams and people doing things for them become more, I wouldn't say more relaxed, but they are less stressed and pressured than the woman stage, where she's just like hustle, 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 independent, do it all on my own. I don't need no help. I don't trust people. I'm a boss, and and women like that tend to not attract men. So girls totally put off men unless the man wants to be controlling. Women tend to put off men because he doesn't have space to actually do things for her and receive his love and receive him. So I just wanted to point that out in terms of there is a 4th stage, which is like the goddess, which is like when a woman actually actualizes to her full god potential, as like embodies the goddess archetype, but probably very few will do that in this lifetime. So what I am trying to say is that if we look at those 3 archetypes of women and their development stages, it makes sense that who April is speaking to are queens, and there is not many queens that exist. Hi, I can see you guys. Hi, Iola. Hi, Destiny. So I didn't know if I could see. I'm going to show your comments on the screen. Destiny says hi, and Iola says good evening. So you guys can actually talk, and I will some of the comments. I don't mind sharing, So now how do I take this thing off? Anyway, so as I was saying, we go through these stages. Now, I'm going to scroll back to the April comment because I wanted to just sort of emphasize those points, because going into the question, like, should we be healing or playing that role? Now, she had to make another note because she was catching a lot of heat, and there was a couple of comments on here, and one from a man that I thought was really interesting. Let me see if I can get this up again. Okay, oops, I'll go back. So there was one comment from a gentleman who was just like, he kind of found it insulting that, women feel like they need to be healing. And it kind of is disempowering for women to believe that it is our job, which it's definitely not. It's not anyone's job to heal anybody. You can be part of the process, but it's not your duty. And this is where the comment can be quite problematic. Now, let me just read what she put. So she goes, now, before the choir starts, I did that, only God heals, which I know, Destiny, you commented that, only God heals. She says, now, before the choir starts with that, I did that, only God heals crap, let me help you. First, God heals people through people. Fair point. The power of a feminine woman's presence is strong. Point. Just like the power of a wise masculine man is so strong, he can heal you just by his presence. I totally agree. The prerequisite I said was being wise, as well as they were probably trying to do something for him, which is what we women do instead of being. Also, when you are a wise person, you have boundaries. You know when to walk away and don't take the mistreatment. You don't take mistreatment. You love yourself, and the list goes on. So I'm glad she posted that, because that actually gives a good amount of context to what's being said, but it's not going to land very well with most people and a lot of people, because I'm being real. This is not to cast shade or to diminish anybody or any state anyone's in terms of your development. If you're a girl, if you're a woman, if you're a queen, whatever. But a lot of women in our society are not taught to just be. We are taught our value is in what we do, how we look. We are taught, especially as women of color, Black women, we tend to be very ingrained to be codependent, as in people pleasing, as in overcompensating, as in trying to save our men and rescue them because we feel we have to, as in doing all the things that actually create resentment in men, because men do not want to be fixed. Because ultimately what you're saying is you're broken, you're not good enough, and I'm better than you. I'm better, I'm more healed, I'm more smarter, I'm more wiser, and I can heal you. And this is what I'm coming to do. It's actually quite insulting. So I wanted to read a comment, because I'm going to go into, let me see if I can see it, because there was quite a few comments, but there was one that really stood out for me. And I actually made a comment back to it because it was from a man, and he kind of said the similar thing. And I think anyone that comes with this intention to help and love has to understand that every single person, male or female, is on their journey. And sometimes we actually enable and can enable people to continue in their victimhood, continue to play the blame game, continue to act out and come from a place of like pure just dysfunction. And it's not our job to save those people. Now, the way I see it is this, right? Let me just come off. This is like, and if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to ask, share. The way I see it is this, right? If we have just gonna close this 1 second, guys. So if we have a situation whereby like you meet somebody, right? And I'm speaking from experience because when I was dating, and I kind of went through this process, and my I love Cassandra. I always credit her because she taught me a lot of this stuff. Um, she was like, look, there is no like kings. There is no like fixed healed man. Like it doesn't exist. And it's like she was like, if you want strawberries, right? You're either gonna and there's no strawberries. Nobody sells strawberries. You're either gonna have to grow your own or go without strawberries. Simple. And I was like, so what are you trying to say? Like, is it my job to heal or like make a man into the man I want? And she's like, well, yes and no. She goes, your job as a woman is to be a woman, but you inspire a man to either step up and meet you where you need him to be for you, or throw him back in the sea. She's like, literally, that's it. She goes, because the truth of the matter is, as a healed, empowered, embodied woman or whatever, you will not find, or you very rarely find a man that's going to meet you at your level. So by virtue of you being you, you either inspire him to step up into his, into his best version of himself, and he doesn't. And she goes, the way you do this is through challenge, and you don't challenge a man by, like, people think challenge is like, oh, being aggressive, but challenge is like literally giving a man a choice. So for example, let's say, and I'm not a relationship coach or anything, I'm just teaching you guys what I learned and where I can see some of what April's saying, but I also think it can be quite problematic if it lands in the wrong ears, and the mindset of the woman listening to it is she's either in girl stage, or, well, women are not even going to entertain this conversation, because a woman's going to think, hang on a minute, why would I be here to heal some guy? And what is the point of that? So a woman who's independent will not necessarily vibe with this, because that's almost taken away from her and her independence. Whereas a queen, or what is called an inspiring queen, because it's like women can go through this. There's like a stage between being a woman and a queen, which is an inspiring queen, where she's wanting to exude and use her femininity, and use her power of her nurturing spirit and her lovingness. But if she's not fully embodied, and she doesn't have the inspiration again from the man, which is feeding her, then it's just going to end up in a disaster, right? Also, the main point is that she also has to find an aspiring king. So she can't deal with, so I'll go through the 3 stages of men, because now we're looking at, okay, women go through these 3 stages. And I've mentioned this on lives before, and I'll probably mention it on every live, because I think if you don't grasp this, then it's like, you find some women who are like, oh, I see some broken man and I'm going to heal him, but he's not ready to be healed. He's not a good option to invest in, to use your energy for, because you're not going to get the return. So let me just talk about the 3 stages of men, so we can distinguish that if you are going to decide, okay, I want a man who's going to treat me in the way that I need to be treated, you're going to have to set some strong boundaries with that man. And you're also going to have to challenge him, which is through setting boundaries, to meet you at your level, because men are just not wired like that. We have a gift of being emotionally intelligent. Well, some of us, right? I'm not going to say all women, because a lot of women are not emotionally intelligent. I'll tell you that for nothing. And one of the things, like, my relationship coach works strictly with men for 20 years. So I really kind of listen to her when it comes to like learning about these things. I mean, I get a lot of my wisdom from people, experts, people that really know their stuff. So I'm only teaching what I know from experts, right? And so it's like, you really have to get into this mindset if you are at that stage, which I personally think, if you're not healed, don't even try and be healing someone else. That energy has to go to you. It really has to go to you. Unless you're like really reigning in like queen's level, like, it's just not really going to work out. It can't, because if you're trying, a queen can only inspire a man into a king, or a king can only inspire a woman into a queen. It's like, you can't be lower on the spectrum. Well, okay, yes, a woman can take a boy into a man, but you don't want to be investing into boys and bring them to a man. You want to be taking men into kingship and vice versa. So let me just read some of the comments. I just got a few comments that I'm going to share quickly. So I'm engaging with you. Destiny said pharmacy. Life is too. So let me just see what Destiny said. Life is too. It's tough. It sinks or swim. And there's no victim spirit. They should at least heal before the relationship. The thing is about the healing, though, is I don't think the men aren't in tune with their emotional world. That is what the domain of the woman is. That's why if a woman's smart or slightly emotionally intelligent, she's able to emotionally move a man, because men are taught, they're taught not to know, they don't know this emotional world. They're taught to, stiff up a lip and don't show any weakness, don't cry. So men don't actually understand their emotional world. And this is why with an emotionally healed woman, he is actually able to kind of open up. That can become a safe sanctuary for him to actually start unpacking and dealing with his feelings of inadequacy, his feelings of unworthiness, his feelings of betrayal, his feelings of rejection, because men go through all these things just like women do. The difference is that us women, we talk, we process, we go to our girlfriends, we'll go to a spa, we'll do all this self-care stuff to really process and heal our emotions, whereas men literally have three things: alcohol, sex, and war, like sports or whatever. So they say war. So that's men's outlets. Men let their frustration out through literally three outlets. So if he's drinking a lot, it's probably because he's got a lot of internal stuff. If he's, going out or fighting or aggressive, and I mean, I'm not excusing any behavior, but I'm just saying that people process their emotions differently. So once you understand how a man's processing his emotions and how we women process emotions, we have so many more outlets. We do therapy, we do group healing retreats. So when a woman who's done the work or is doing the work meets someone, and I guess this is why I think April's comment was quite problematic, because she has to understand who she's speaking to. She's speaking to herself. She's speaking to a woman like her. She's leveled up. She's absolutely beautiful. She's rich. She's living in her divine goal. She's like, so she can speak like that, but she's like an anomaly. She's like, the 1% when it comes to embodied woman. Like most women are not that. So to really say, heal the boy within it, most women are still healing. Most women are still on their healing journey. And so it's a bit problematic to suggest that. So Selena Magnetic. Oh, I like that name. Says, definitely a man can only be inspired and healed if he has created the space inside him in order for that to successfully take place. If it's blocked, it will always be problematic. Absolutely agree with that, because so let me explain something that I figured out. And this is why I do feel like women do inspire men. So if a man is drawn in and he deeply loves and respects a woman, and he has, like she points out, in a very healthy way, his problematic behaviors that he deep down knows is wrong, to keep her respect, to keep her in his life, because this is the reason why we have to set strong boundaries. Because if we allow a man's problematic behavior to affect, not only, it doesn't just affect him, it affects you, especially if you're in a relationship. So if you don't set these boundaries and say, this is not going to work for me, by giving a man choice. So one of the things that I think we don't know how to do as women is to challenge a man in a healthy way that doesn't diminish his ego or make him feel bad about himself, because men have big egos. They already feel like, most men probably to some degree don't feel like they're good enough or measure up, because society does place some very, very high standards on men. They've got to be rich, they've got to be tall, they've got to be good looking, they've got to be this, and most of them just don't fit it. Just be real. Like, it's almost like this fantasy ideal of what a man should be, and it doesn't really exist. So a lot of men do walk away feeling like they're not good enough, they're not tall enough, they're not this enough, they're not that enough. And I think we have to be really, really, like, again, an empowered woman kind of understands this. So whenever you're talking, you don't want to, it's just like if you had a complex, right? And like I used to have a complex that I had a big nose, and I do. Like it's broad, but it's black. But I used to, as a kid, I used to have a really big problem, and anytime, like when I was younger, somebody would point it out, or my family used to mock me about it, and it used to really trigger me, and it used to, so I was very sensitive about it. And even if people were like being jokeful and whatever, it still bothered me. So my point is like, you know, there's certain things that people are sensitive, and it triggers those feelings of like rejection, or I'm not good enough. And so we have to be mindful of that. And if you're not, you can easily make a man feel and emasculate him and make him feel worthless just by how you approach him, even just by how you set your boundaries. So one of the things that I learned, one of the things that I learned and what I want to share with you guys is, let me see what this one says. Yeah, one of the things that I learned, and welcoming everybody. Sorry if I'm just going into the talk. I'm just talking the talk and I'm not even talking to y'all. It's because I'm using this thing and it's just, I'm still figuring it out. But yeah, welcoming those of you who are joining. Oh yeah, please share. Guys, please share my content. The reason why I asked you to share is because it helps my content to be seen, and I create content for people to hear the message. And I create content because I want people to see it. And if you guys don't share it, then other people don't see it. And then obviously the content creator, you kind of like think, oh, well, you know, it's important that if you're sharing stuff or spending the time to share like wisdom and knowledge, if you're enjoying it and if you like the message, then share it with somebody. So I ask you to share, I ask you to like, and please comment, please engage. Don't just sit there and lurk. I want to have a conversation with you all. Okay. So Destiny just raised the point about men becoming dependent on you. So the dependent bit is when a man is in his boy stage. If a male becomes dependent, you're not dealing with a man or a king, you're dealing with a boy. So again, going back to I will talk about the 3 psychological development stages. Boy becomes dependent. He doesn't have enough power to stand on his own 2 feet. So he has to use a woman. Those men are big no-nos. We have to understand what they are, what they look like, and we stay clear. A man, even men, like a man that is lower, so let's just think of it as a spectrum. A man who's kind of like at the lower end of the spectrum of man, he probably isn't going to allow a woman to even be in his life like that. He's going to either be a player, because the man is all about, okay, he's finally just got his independence. He's able to stand on his own 2 feet. He's not like a boy. But now that he's got his independence, he doesn't want to lose that for a woman. Just like the Dave Chappelle meme that was like, what, you want me to chase you and then pay your bills? That's a man. A man does not want to do that. Now, a king, he's got enough. He's got so much to give. Like, he's just like, yeah, he's available. Like, his level is now not about him. So the king mindset is like, he thinks about others in the community. He's so embodied in himself that he can look after himself and others. So you're never taken away from a king because he has so much. He's got people working for him. Women, if you're going to invest in anyone, like, he has to be a man aspiring, like a man, or what I'd even call like a knight. It's like a knight in between a man and a king. Like, we want to be finding those kind of men that they are worth investing time and energy and healing into, because, you know, everyone's going to come with their baggage, but, you know, as long as you're getting something out, it's like, so it's not about you just giving. And that's another point. You know, I'm dashing from point to point. When you're with a knight aspiring to be a king, so he's kind of like not king stage, but he's getting there. You don't have to do anything. Only by virtue of you being you, your presence is enough. Like, so again, a queen understands that, okay, this man has to do for me. He has to show me why I should join him in his castle. He has to, and a knight or aspiring king will do that, because now he's inspired by this great woman who probably he's used to girls or he's used to independent women, but now he's finding this really fluid, you know, really open, feminine, soft, fun, you know, just, she got a light energy, and that's the divine feminine, a very light kind of, you know, she knows who she is. She's not reactionary. She has emotional intelligence. She's wise. So when an aspiring man finds a woman like that, naturally he's going to want to keep her because she is different to everybody else. And so, therefore, he is now going to level himself up if he's inspired and challenged to meet her where she wants him to be. And again, like, this is just, it's just the way things go. It's like, if you want a job, right, and you know that job's going to add value to you, that job's going to bring pleasure to you, that job's going to give you money, you're going to work and get the skills you need to qualify for that job, right? So let me just read some of y'all comments. Aldova says, go girl. No, but it's, I think we need to have these conversations because as women and females, I know a lot of us, I mean, I had to learn this for myself. My mom never sat down and told me this. I'm sure her mom never told her this. And I think if we were taught these things as young women or young girls, and also men as well, because it's like there's all these really amazing, great women, but there's no kings. You're lucky if you even find a man in some communities. A lot of them are boys, 40-year-olds with boys, 40-year-old boys. They have the boy mentality, or men that are just transactional. They can't open up emotionally. They're only thinking about themselves. They're selfish. They're in their own, because they're wounded. They're not fully in their, aspiring king stage. I really want to show you guys this comment. I'm going to see if I can find it on this page, because a man left a very, very interesting comment that I thought was like really, really, really powerful. Because again, like we're saying, April left a hell of a lot of comments, because I think now she's kind of like backpedaling, because I reckon she realizes that it was a bit tone deaf. And it was actually a little bit problematic to say that, because some naive, empathic woman is going to now think, oh, well, I need to heal the little boy so I can get the man that I want. And then she goes into all these really codependent, toxic, unhealthy ways of trying to change him, trying to heal him, sacrificing herself, abandoning herself, getting all stressed out and all frazzled because this man, has got, and it's like, it's just, you got to know your audience sometimes. And I need to learn that as well. I mean, I like to talk facts. Everything that I learn is like evidence-based. Obviously, some of it's mirrored with some things I say are opinions or opinionated, but a lot of the things that I teach I've read it from a book by real experts, like real psychologists and real experts. So it's not like I'm just saying it for the effect. It's actually true. And if you apply it, you'd probably get some good results as well. Let me see if I can find this comment, because it was just like, it was just kind of like, yeah, I get it. In fact, let me check on my phone, because it was, one second, guys. So yeah, as I was saying, we really need to become more self-aware of what we're doing. Now, I know there was a lot of women that I was in a group and they were just hammering this post. Like, they were just like, no way. Like, okay, this is the comment. So this gentleman left this comment, and it goes something like this. I think a lot of these women miss the fact that men are highly perspective. We acknowledge what we see, even if we do so silently. And most of us would not completely trust a woman we perceive to be trying to heal us. Do you hear that, ladies? The man said we would not entirely trust a woman perceived, because men, just this perception, whether or not you're coming from, if they think you are trying to fix them. Anyway, let me just continue this. I personally would see the deliberate attempt to heal me as a subtle disrespect and a lack of appreciation for who I am. And that's the biggest thing. Men want to be loved for who they are. They're not like us some of them, unless what people call simps, who try and mold themselves to please everybody. But a lot of men are just like, they want to be accepted for who they are. So when you start saying, oh, you're not good enough, and then do this, like, some of them will switch off and walk away, because by virtue, you're just saying he's not good enough by being him, but he probably isn't. So this is why I was going into saying something about how do you inspire or challenge a man without making him feel like he's flawed. But anyway, let me just finish this, because this man made a really, really, really good point. And I think it's important, ladies, that if we are trying to like have a relationship with anybody, especially a man, it's like I always say, like, if you want to play with tigers, study the psychology of a tiger, study the behavioral patterns so that you don't get bitten, right? So that you and that tiger can have a, you know, play fair and have a good relationship. And it's same with men. Like, you've got to study men. The male psychology is very different. And this is why I talk about the 3 stages of the male psychology, because then you can decipher what man is like worthy of, you know, investing in, what man to completely avoid, because his psychology, his mindset, like where is he at? And you can easily tell by just the way they behave. Celine, I'm just going to read some of your comments. I'll bring this one up. Selena Magnetic says, women and men should only invest when it's clear that you are both prepared to be on your healing journeys together. Good point. Absolutely brilliant point. You're so right, because the healing isn't just for one person. Relationships as a healing process, I believe relationships are if you want to grow and get into personal development and do it, just be in a relationship. Obviously people in relationships, so they're toxic because they're not doing the work. I'll go into this. I just want to finish this comment because read this comment because I think it's really like, it really spoke to me, and it really made me understand, like, you know what, we women have a lot of voice and a lot of things to say, but I really don't feel we listen to men enough. And I think this is probably the challenge of why we're having this, why we have these kind of like issues between man and woman, because men perceive things, they're very logical, they think they're kind of, I mean, not all, but most men are, you know, they think very different, they see things very different, and life's very different. And women, we're very emotive, we need our emotional needs to be taken care of, and men don't even understand that. And it really is our job to teach them how to do that. But how do you do that? Anyway, going back to this comment, because it actually is quite interesting. See, because I personally would see the deliberate attempt to heal me as a subtle disrespect, and I lack of appreciation for who I am. But the woman whose energy feels like home, she got it. Doesn't have to say or do anything, really. It's just who she is. It's a spiritual thing, I think. Not every woman gets it. And I totally understand that, because that's about your essence, your presence. Like, you know, if you've got the right energy and the right presence, like, there's some people that walk in a room, they don't have to say anything, but you just respect them. You just, like, you don't want to upset them or offend them. They're just, their aura, their aura is just, you know, this is why I talk about doing the work. Like, some women, I go into dating sites and I help my friends like do profiles, and I look at like other women's dating profiles, and I look and I think you can see you don't have what they call je ne sais quoi, like vibe. And you only get vibe when you do the work, because people don't understand all your emotional trauma, your baggage, your pain. It's like, it's in your energy field. We can't touch it or see it. Just like we can feel the wind, but we can't see it. You know, Wi-Fi is moving through this house, but we can't see it, right? Your energy is the same thing. So I can walk into realize, I read people, I can see people's auras. She's off, she's not. And I think men can too. And that's why a man can see a woman who's needy. That's why narcissists have the most brilliant radar they know the empath and the woman with compassion without wisdom. That's a whole topic we're going to talk about. The compassionate woman without wisdom, which becomes the overgiver, the one that's always putting their needs before themselves, the one that cannot say no, the one that has to people please. There's a lot of them. And then there's the ones on the other spectrum, which are just, they're completely closed off. Their trauma just, they ain't even going to entertain you. You got to break down walls. And, you know, so it's about finding that like medium, and it's all about the healing, and the healing happens together. Oh yeah, so this guy's talking about, so the next part of his comment says, healing doesn't happen by trying. It's a natural byproduct of being a healed person. Just what I said. Example, if you're not a good salesperson, but desire to be, and you're placed with a good salesperson to shadow, you will observe and strive to build behaviors that bring you the results you desire. If you're with a healer, her very presence is all you need, all that's needed. And if you desire a relationship, you will naturally use the love and light given to heal. All conditions must be there though. Faith plus works equals healing. Desire plus applied action equals healing. I hope this shines a different light on it. I mean, this guy, I need to follow this guy because he's this, I think it's a guy. No, it's a woman. Is it a guy? Oh God, no, it's a woman. Oh God. No, I think she's got 2 pages. But anyway, no, it's there's 2 of them. That's a bit weird. It's a woman. No, sorry, there's 2 different people. That was another woman. Anyway, each their own. They both made some very, very, very valid points, and kind of is the same sentiment of what I'm saying is like, I think by virtue of being healed, and the healing comes from when we are setting our boundaries, when we are saying, okay, so for example, I had a friend who she was in a relationship, and her partner was always like, they had 2 flats, 2 homes, right? But her partner was always at her, he technically like lived there, but he wasn't contributing to the household. So she had her flat and he had his place. And I think she was just like, this bothers me. But instead of like getting angry or making an issue out of it, she's like, and this is somebody who taught me this. She's like, I always give a man a choice, like in such a calm way. It's like, look, hey, you know, I noticed you've been staying at mine a lot. You practically live here. So it's either going to go, you move in completely and you pay and contribute to the household, or you go back home and you see me and stay at my place 2-3 days a week. Which one is it going to be? And he now had a choice to either step up or do A or do B. Now, if he said neither, then that would have been okay. Well, it's not going to work for me. Bye. But she didn't demand and say, oh, well, you got to move in or you got to pay my bills. Or she didn't make an issue. She just said, like, calmly, like, I just give people an option. Always give a man a choice, because that's the thing. I think nobody likes to be backed in a corner like, oh, you better do this because if you don't do this, then it's a problem. It's like a gentle way of saying, right, well, this isn't working for me. So we can either do A or B. Which one is it going to be? And she says, just leave him with the choice. Walk away from it. Like, he will come to a decision on his own, what he wants. And you said either it all works. I mean, obviously, the choices have to be kind of reasonable. But she says, by virtue of giving a man a choice, you're not imposing your will, right? Does that make sense? What does let me put Aldora's comment on. She says, of ours, Victoria, we must make him feel like he's flawed. Yep, different psychology. Hopefully the woman who recognizes that a man might need some form of healing wouldn't be on their own journey or encounter. My daughter always consults me if they feel they have a challenge in their relationship. All relationships are challenges. All relationships are challenges. And the thing about it is about, again, you can be a woman and you can develop yourself in that relationship, because you're going to have to learn how to deal with your unhealed parts. Relationships always trigger our traumas or our wounds. So there's 4 core wounds. We have the wound of rejection. We have the wound of abandonment. We have and that's like, those are like, I would say, the core ones. We have the wound of shame and we have the wound of injustice. There's more, but those are like the main things that trigger us. And guess what? You're going to feel all of them wounds in the relationship. And so your partner is actually usually is like the mirror. It's going to hold up these things. And this is why I believe 2 people that whoever you attract is where you're at in your healing journey. So if you're attracting aspiring kings, you're probably an aspiring queen. If you're attracting little boys, you're probably either a woman trying to raise a boy into a man, or vice versa. So you really got to look at where you are. Some women feel like they need to save people. A lot of women do have this. I mean, I've been there. rescue syndrome, especially women who are compassionate, women who are healers, women who are empathetic and have empathy. We do have this divine assignment to bring our light and healing to the world, but that doesn't necessarily mean in our relationships. That can mean in our professional, in our world, or how we can use that skill in different places. Not to say we don't help and heal our man or help him grow, but it's not your job is to, especially in a relationship, your job is to, as a woman, I believe your job is to receive pleasure and then give love. That's honestly your job is to receive. When we're with a man, do we not receive him? Like when we have sex, are we not receiving him? It's like we are there to receive, and if you're not receiving and you're giving, you're flipping the balance. Yes, you receive and then you give back, almost like, okay, thank you for giving me this, and it becomes like a cycle of give and take, give and take. So guys, I am gonna wrap up this conversation. I really hope you like it. So I'm aiming to do these calls or these shows on Mondays and Wednesdays, every week at 9 p.m. If it's a little bit late though, drop me a comment, because if you guys think, oh, I'm tired at that time, but anyway, you can always watch it on the replay. But I do like having a live audience, because obviously I can read your comments, and we appreciate everyone who joined and everyone who shared. And my main message and what I want to share is, like, healing is definitely a journey. It's a continuous journey. We're moving so many layers constantly, and our relationships are either going to support that growth and healing journey. All our relationships, whether good or bad, are going to do that. But there becomes a point in every woman's life where she definitely wants to have that empowered relationship, and it first comes with herself. Like your number one relationship does start with you. I'm all for, like, your relationship with yourself being the best relationship. And then once you've mastered that, which is all down to self-mastery, I will finish my actual topic, my video on 7 steps to self-mastery. I think once you're able to do that and you have this self-understanding and self-awareness of how you relate to people in relationships, it becomes much easier to be able to create healthy relationships. And healthy relationships are created firstly with yourself, setting really strong boundaries, knowing what your boundaries are, knowing what your values are, knowing what your beliefs are, knowing what your deal breakers are, just knowing all these things, and then being so disciplined to implement it. Being so disciplined to say, I'm not going to allow A, B, and C. I'm not going to let myself do C, D, and E. You've got to have these standards. And it's not the easiest thing to do, but with the right tools, with the right support, and the right people in your life, they will also inspire you to be better. And this is why I always believe in having good relationships, good teachers, good mentors, and ultimately investing your time into yourself and your personal development consistently. All right, guys? So thank you all for joining. And I will see you all on Wednesday. Adios.